Hey, what is up, mortals? It is Mr. Zombie here with a new video for you. Welcome to part 3 of What If Izuku Had a Villain Quirk. I just wanted to greet you guys by saying sit back and relax, you're in for a treat. So, we begin. Izuku was walking away from school with Aizawa's syllabus in his bag, already thoroughly studied, along with the other books he had obtained in his previous classes. He let out a breath and smiled at the sky when the sound of his name being called reached his ear. He turned to see a Ravenet girl who figured out the true point of the test. "Oh, hey, your name's Yaoyorozu, right?" His guess was proven correct as the young woman answers with a nod. She slows to a pace matching the shorter male next to her. "I heard you were recommended to the academy. I was wondering who did so." She smiles sheepishly as she continues. "Not to be rude, but despite having a very intriguing quirk, you don't seem to be from a wealthy or influential family or have any meaningful connections." He quickly dismisses her apology, not truly minding the question. The boy still felt the feeling of panic setting deep within him. Midnight had never told him whether or not he was allowed to share the training he had given him. He gulps and quickly comes up with a rather unbelievable story, making the calm girl in front of him raise an eyebrow in question. He let his head droop down in submission, knowing he couldn't fool the all-too-observant classmate of his. He quietly damned Midnight in his head for already making school a pain as he met her eyes. "I was recommended by a pro hero I was training with, Midnight to be precise." He wasn't sure what was more shocking, seeing a sudden blossom of feeling on Yaoyorozu's face, or the lack of a more apparent one due to the gravity of the news. She slammed her fist into a palm as she declared how much sense it made, seeming far more focused on figuring Midoriya out. She smiled and put a finger up to her lips, as she promised to help him keep his secret if he wished to keep it one. The Verdinian-eyed boy let out a heavy sigh of relief and nodded as he waved goodbye to his fellow hero student, blinking at the limousine that was picking her up. He shook his head and made a turn, rather than exiting UA, pulling out the note he had received earlier from Midnight to look at the meeting spot. The actions of the boy were scrutinized by a ticked-off blonde who was spying on his movements.
"What the hell is that bastard doing? Class is over!"
The Crimson-eyed teen let out a sound of dismissal as he stomped out of the school grounds.
"What do I care about what he does? As long as he keeps out of my damn way with that stupid quirk!"
Memories of what he saw as a kid flashed in front of him, and he shook them off. He felt the sting of nails drawing blood from his hands as he curled them into fists to keep them from shaking. The traumatized youth stalked off into the direction of his home. Midoriya finally arrived at the classroom that Midnight wanted to meet him in, and knocked once before being swept into the classroom. He landed flat on his back and groaned as he sat up, intending to give his tutor a piece of his mind, before realizing they weren't alone. The teen's eyes seemingly turned into emeralds with how they glittered upon realizing he was in a room with several pro heroes. The rated R hero quickly grabbed her pupil's shoulder before he could bombard their co-workers with questions, analyses of their quirks, and the like. "It's good to see you again, Zuko," she says as she turns and gestures at the heroes around her. "My friends here have been pestering me about meeting my mystery student for a while now, so I decided to introduce you." The woman quickly ushered the shorter person into the crowd of heroes, upon which they quickly bowed in front of him. When he received thanks for some of the information he shared with the heroes, causing his previous smile to bloom into an almost creepy grin. Eventually, Midnight dragged the boy away to send him home, pulling him into a sideways hug. "I'm so proud of you, kid. I heard from Aizawa that you use your quirk around the other students." She smiled as she released the boy from her grip. "You may have hesitated, but it's a huge step in the direction you need to go in." She then slaps his back abruptly, motioning for him to go back as she waves goodbye. Needless to say, the junior Barrett was smiles and sunshines for the rest of that evening. The positivity spread to his mother as well. Even when morning came, he still saw through those rose-colored glasses as he prepared for day 2 of his hero course. Upon arrival at the Grand Academy, he went through the more school-oriented classes required of the students. First was English with President Mike, in which the optimistic male was the only one engaged in the class. The day was mainly a blur to the other heroes until lunch came, where Izuku began fawning over lunch rush, as Momo complimented his cooking. At last, it was time for the hero training segment of the day, and the harlequin-eyed youth was extremely eager to begin. The door slid open and a booming voice called out to the whole class. "I am here!" The well-known catchphrase turned heads and caused gasps to echo and eyes to shimmer as All Might stepped into the room. The juniper-haired youngling near the back smiled to himself, finding out about the #1 hero's job at the school last night when he met with Midnight. The sizable hero stepped up to the podium and began to hype the class up for their first hero training lesson before revealing hidden compartments in the wall that held numbered suitcases. He declared them as the hero suits of which they had designed themselves prior to the beginning of school. The class eagerly reached for them and split up to change into their costumes. After several minutes, the students met back at the life-size model of a cityscape, the location that they took their entrance exams in. Several students were admiring their costumes, as a certain greenette finally joined them. He was wearing a lab coat with loose sleeves, perfect for hiding his mutation while allowing it to flow, and a padded undershirt and plated slacks. On the sides of his pants were 2 tanks that attached to the other sides of them. Each one was connected to a small tube that was plugged into the wristlet around the opening in which Izuku's quirk was emanated through. As a last touch, goggles sat upon his head that would allow him to see through his toxin, if he ended up in a situation where he'd fill up an area with it. In all honesty, the boy had designed everything separately and did not think of the end result, combined with his messy juniper looks that would make him look like a mad scientist. He spotted Momo and called her over, his face turning a deep red as he saw how revealing, to be stated simply, her outfit was. "Ah, Midoriya! What an interesting design for an outfit! You look just like a mad scientist!" She smiles as she claps her hands together. A grin takes over her friend's face as he chuckles bashfully. He admitted he wasn't exactly going for that look, but was happy to try out the special features the support course heroes added. All Might called their attention to him, and he proceeded to explain what they were doing in the city. A hero versus villains battle. The students would draw lots and form pairs before being further separated into villain and hero teams, in which they would battle each other. The villains were in possession of a nuclear device in which they had to protect from the heroes, and if they captured said heroes, they won. If the heroes reached the device or captured the villains, they would win. Their instructor pulled out a box of names and had each of them draw to ensure teams were completely random, teaching them the necessity of being versatile when working with other heroes. Izuku ended up being paired up with Momo, who gave him a thumbs up, which he happily returned, before his smile was dropped from his face as the symbol of peace announced who he would be going up against. Team D, which consisted of Ida and Bakugo. The latter person mentioned glaring directly at the harlequin-eyed boy, who averts his gaze. "Young Bakugo and Ida, you will be the villains for this round. In order for you to win this exercise, you must channel the mind of a villain. If things start to get out of hand, I shall interfere." All Might said with a thumbs up as the villain duo stepped into the building. The explosive-tempered blonde shot a vicious look at his old childhood friend. Midoriya gulps as his teammate asks what the cause of the tension was between the two of them. "When we were younger, I manifested my quirk when he was about to attack me. What happened after that wasn't pretty." An awkward silence ensued as Toshinori quickly ushered the other students to the monitor room. A voice boomed somewhere in the landscape, commencing the Fox battle. The duo outside of the building cautiously enter, as one of the members of the villain team charges downstairs, calling for his teammate to watch the bomb. "Time to finally get back at Deku for what he did. The teachers always stopped me before, but not here." He sprints down the stairs and wildly searches for that mop of swamp green hair. "That nerd messed me up in the head. I'll never forgive that." He spots Izuku moving along the twists and turns of the building and demands for them to stop. They span around and the juniper-haired male gulps with the determination and hate in his eyes. He turns and quickly ushers his teammate to continue, assuring her he'd try to follow her as soon as possible. Bakugo's eyes twitches as he screams and lunges at the boy. "Don't you dare underestimate me, Deku! You need all the help you can get when you're fighting me!" The red of the teen's eyes seemed to glow like a roaring flame as he let loose several large explosions at his fellow classmate. The other was immediately forced on the defensive, but did not use his quirk, puzzling those who were watching. This did not bode well for him as it made his opponent even more furious at him. The attacks grew in force, heat, and frankly, lethality. As a powerful combustion nearly blew half of his face off, the boy had to make and move and span in place while releasing fear toxin all around him, the contained space not allowing the vapor to diffuse as easily. He lowers his goggles to see where his folks' villain acquaintance went. Midoriya was shocked to see he had stopped all attacks and was shaken ever so slightly as he stared at the cloud of green gas. The explosive blonde shakes his head and yells out, "No!" before letting loose a blast that knocked the goggled youngling back and sent his gas all around the hallway. "I'm done playing around! You see these gauntlets I have here?" He gestures to large grenade-like objects on his arms. "They've been collecting my sweat this entire time, and it's time to let it all out!" Izuku's face paled to extremes as a light began to gather at the ends of the gauntlets and the room noticeably heated up. All Might quickly tried to intervene before a young Bakugo could kill his adversary. The boy quickly turned around and used his quirk to propel himself away, just as a deafening boom echoed from behind him, the force knocking him off center and spinning into a nearby wall as he made his escape. The buzzer echoes around him as the #1 pro announced the exercise was over and that the heroes had won. Blood-red eyes seemed to glow even more fiery as anger filled them, and the owner of said eyes growled and stomped out of the building. Yaoyorozu comes down and spots her teammate, rushing over to help him and helping him up, the crown of his head bleeding and his outfit burned and ripped. Ida saw the state of the other boy and went to help. The duo assisting their injured classmate out of the building before Recovery Girl was waiting, making her way over after thoroughly scolding the teen. She puckered up and kissed the bloody head of the injured student, wiping her lips as the wounds healed themselves and the boy's troubled expression of unconsciousness faded to a tired visage.
"He'll be alright, but he'll most likely be out for the next hour. Take care of him, dear."
She reached with her cane and patted Momo's shoulder, before their blonde instructor came up to lead them to the monitor area to see the next teams. The next teams were impressive, but none held the intensity that the first ones did, until Todoroki and Shoji were up. Yells of surprise and awe jolted the unconscious green net awake to see an ocean of ice spread across a building. A heterochromatic male standing at the bottom of the building before making his way up and touching the bomb. He and his teammates stared in shock, both analyzing the attack, trying to determine just how strong their schoolmate was. The last battles didn't even come close to exciting the people behind the computers as much as that one. Finally, the training came to a close and All Might gave out praise and criticisms to all his pupils before sending them off. As soon as they were done changing, Momo and Izuku searched for Todoroki, eager to congratulate him on such an amazing performance in the training. Thanks to the Ravenhill girl's superior height, she spotted him and tugged her friend over.
"Todoroki, please wait a minute."
The duo arrived right behind the teen with bi-colored hair. He arches an eyebrow, recognizing both of them as the other recommended students his father informed him about. "Yes, can I help you two with something?" His eyes gazed deeply into each of them as they complimented his display during the training. He blinks as he keeps an entirely neutral face while thanking them. "I suppose it was impressive, but your efforts in the exercise were intriguing to me, yours especially, Midoriya." Shoto turned his attention to the green-haired one of the duo. "You seemed hesitant to use your quirk, and even when you did use it, you didn't use it on Bakugo. Can I ask why?" The powerful teenager noticed the uncomfortable stance that Deku adopted as he shifted his place. He opened and closed his mouth a few times trying to explain. I suppose I just didn't want to do what I did years ago to Kacchan during the exercise." That statement prompted more questions from the two recommendees next to him. "My quirk can be very dangerous. I produce a neurotoxin that can force my adversary to see their worst fears in extremely lifelike ways." Realization dawns on the faces of both other adolescents before a look of pity comes across the raven-haired girl's face. He recounts the events that happened when he defended a kid from Katsuki that was bullying him, and how he was ridiculed for having a villainous quirk. He feels a warm hand on his shoulder and looks up to see Momo smiling at him. "It's okay, Midoriya. You're at UA now. You've proved every single one of them wrong." She reassures her Juniperette friend who began crying tears of joy, shocking the young woman who began fretting. He quickly calmed her down and burst out laughing at how panicked she looked. The girl quickly joined in with quiet giggles. Todoroki glanced at them with a judgmental look, with a spark of longing buried deep within it as he walked off. The duo bid him goodbye and parted themselves, the fatigue of the exam still affecting them. Inko heard the front door open and her son kick off his shoes, before collapsing onto the couch. A familiar smile spreads across her face as he walks over to her son, finding him asleep. She grabs a comforter and covers him up, kissing his forehead before heading back to her room, humming softly under her breath. Thank you all for indulging yourselves in the story thus far. I hope you enjoyed it. Now there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before this video ends. Firstly, we got a second channel called Anime Deep Dive. Anime Deep Dive goes deep into the facts and lore of a wide variety of anime. It's sure to expand your weeb knowledge for all kinds of series, guaranteed. On top of that, we have a third channel called We the Celestials Naruto What If. It's what we do on this channel already, but in the vast world and lore of Naruto. So go check it out if you're in the mood for some jujitsu action. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. Lastly, if you're interested in what we do here on We the Celestials, then I would like to extend out an invitation for you to join the team. The only caveat being we only accept members 16 years and up to join the crew. You can sign up for whatever category fulfills your interest by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description below. Our Discord is an all-around fantastic place to be. Whether you're a fan or looking to join the band of misfits, we're always looking for more members to join us. Well, that's it from us for today's video, so thank you all for watching and have a great day.